It often feels like we spend a lifetime learning the lessons we pick up early on. When we're young, we can't wait for life to happen. But as we get older, our limited time makes us slow down and focus on those everyday tasks we used to rush through. For a couple of years, my daughter Jodi was my go to barber. When I was a kid or a teenager, there's no way I would have let her anywhere near my hair. I remember coming back from the barber shop fuming more often than not because the cut never turned out as I wanted. A saying that stuck with me from those days: don't worry, it'll grow out. It's essentially a reminder that over time, those minor mistakes won't even be noticed. Not too long ago, I got this concerning call from a member's daughter. She wanted me to reach out to her mom, and it made me worry that something awful had happened. Pastors are always tuned into these things, you know. I didn't eavesdrop, but later asked if she needed help. It turns out her daughter was upset about a haircut that went wrong. I recall watching a news segment where a woman refused to make an appearance because she was having a bad hair day. It's amusing how we stress over these small things that may seem huge to us, but likely go unnoticed by everyone else. Nowadays, it seems that everyone is too busy with their own lives to worry about yours or your problems. Speaking of hair, imagine a barber having a conversation like this. Barber: hey, your hair is getting pretty gray. Customer: I'm not surprised. Can you speed it up a bit? Or consider this funny story about a barber who gave a guy the worst haircut ever. The guy was all set to fly to Rome, talking about his trip to the barber while getting his haircut. The barber goes off on how bad flying with Pan Am would be, how terrible the Hilton is, how he'll never see the Pope, and all that. 3 weeks later, the customer returns, raving about how amazing the trip was. So the barber asks what the Pope had to say to him, and the guy sheepishly admits, he said, for Pete's sake, man, where did you get that miserable haircut? It's a classic reminder that life goes on after a bad haircut or a bad day. Eventually, that bad cut will grow out and you won't even remember it. I used to enjoy woodworking, and even when people complimented my projects, I could only see the imperfections. I knew every flaw because I put my heart into those pieces, and that made it harder to appreciate the finished product. Just like when my youngest son got caught with chocolate on his breath after sneaking a bite. When his mom confronted him, he said, you can't smell the chocolate. We all make mistakes, and often we're much harder on ourselves than anyone else could be. We obsess over our flaws that nobody else seems to notice, and it's easy to dwell on those mistakes instead of moving forward into a more positive life. That's why Jesus made the ultimate sacrifice for us, so we can be forgiven, forget our missteps, and embrace a life full of purpose. Poster. George Gallup Jr. pointed out that there are 7 key needs people have that many churches miss: the need for food and shelter, the need for meaning and purpose in life, the need for community and connection, the need for respect and appreciation, the need to be heard and understood, the need for spiritual growth, the need for practical help in faith development. Now let's break that down. Forgiveness. Everyday life's grit. Someone once said, take the stones out of the brook and it has no tune. I remember when my kids had a rock tumbler, you'd toss rough rocks in with some abrasive material, and over time, they'd come out smooth. Life's daily grind can have the same effect on us. We often learn more from our failures than our success, turning those rough edges into something beautiful. I recall a painful experience at the beach. I decided to jog in the sand, which quickly turned into a blister fest for my poor feet. Life can feel like that, with our mistakes seeming so overwhelming when we see them clearly rather than anyone else. We have two types of people: those who refuse to take responsibility for their actions, and those who take on too much. Take Achan, for example, from the Old Testament, who hid valuables from his people, thinking he could keep the secret. But God knew. It's silly to think we can hide our mistakes. Others may not see our struggles, but we know them well. Then there's the matter of forgiveness. Some folks are stuck in the mindset that they can somehow earn their way back to grace with acts of penance. But remember, Jesus changed that broken sacrificial system. He took on our sins once and for all, providing us a path to genuine forgiveness and a fresh start. Forgetfulness. Embracing grace, God promises to forgive and forget our sins. It's a freeing thought. C.S. Lewis said, if God forgives us, we must forgive ourselves too, because otherwise we're setting ourselves above Him.